All right, we are here with Mr. Jeff Pulver, who literally needs no introduction. But Jeff, we were just talking a minute ago. We're at South by Southwest.
Hello, yeah.
Yes, welcome to South by Day 3 for me.
Day 3 for me too.
Slugging in, getting through it.
The sun may come out today.
We're hoping. We're hoping.
The sun will come out tomorrow.
Definitely. So, Jeff, you're well known in the social media space. You're working on a bunch of conferences. And what's the latest one? What are we working on now?
Right now I'm working on the speaker list for the next SocialCom. SocialCom is an event called the Social Communication Summit, and I'm looking at the effects of the growth of social media and social communication specifically, and how it's affecting business, particularly the media, internet, communications, and entertainment industries. Because we're moving from a generation that's driven by dial tone as a reason to call somebody to someone's presence, and that has a profound effect on many ecosystems and businesses. So there's just generations upon generations that we're going to be affected by the advances we're seeing here today. And so it's sort of important to sort of like sit down and try to deal with some of this change, because the way that we communicate as people has shifted. In the last 20 years, where email sort of become the prominent way we communicate. 20 years ago, not so much. 20 years from now, probably not so much either, because it's being replaced by our social networks. And there's an entire generation that's grown up right now that only knows about the internet existing, and that's kind of scary to people. And the way that people now are communicating solely via text, via Facebook, or via IM is kind of like scary to people who used to use email, because it's like all of a sudden they're out of the conversation. And so how people communicate and why they communicate, communicating based on a status update you see from someone on Twitter or Facebook, is sort of more profound than there's a reason to call someone just because of your telephone. And we're shifting so much. So anyway, SocialCom is what I'm focusing on. But really what I really do is I try to bring people together, because I fundamentally believe that the next person you meet may change your life. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, for some others, the next person you meet, you may change their life by something you say, something you do. And so I'm all about connecting people to people. And these days I feel like I live on the edge. If you can imagine a scene where you see the ocean meets the sand on the sea, I look at that as sort of being the digital sand and the analog ocean, and where the water meets the sand. That's where I sit, because I'm focused on bringing people together that know each other online but never really dealt with face-to-face, and that transition in between.
Definitely. Well, I think, that has a ton of it. This idea of kind of an ambient information flow and kind of just being aware of what's going on in your network and the people that you meet really does have, for businesses, for people, if you're missing that, you're missing a whole, almost its own reality, really.
And
you're
the
out
thing
of the
is,
conversation.
yes, of course. And the other subtle part of it is that there are now generations of people that are communicating online that never will use a telephone again. Conversely, the advent of broadband is now providing ability for villages that never had telephones to share information freely on the internet. And so as you look at across the world, as broadband penetration continues, all of a sudden there'll be more and more communities connecting with each other online, and they never owned a telephone, but yet they have high-speed internet. And so you look at how that affects business, and it's a profound effect. And so it's sort of very important to try to understand what this means. And if you happen to be in business, you happen to deal with consumers. It's just the way they deal with you, the way you interact with them is changing, and will change, and will continue to morph. So it's kind of interesting to me. And again, I look to the human side. I think one of the things that people at South by Southwest don't really get, particularly the folks that are here from the commercial side of advertising, when they're here to build a social media strategy for a brand, they forget the fact that there's always a person behind that brand. It used to be on email, you could be anonymous with spam and no one knew who you were, well, until they found you.
Right.
But on Facebook or on Twitter, there's authenticity. You're authentic from the beginning. You can't really spam and get away with it regularly, because first of all, there's no response. No one will actually has to follow you. If you happen to be a spam bot, they'll unfollow you as quickly as they followed you. And in fact, just when you set yourself up, I believe in 3 R's of social media. There's the people will follow you, me, or whomever, because they respect you, because of the reputation that you have. And ultimately, based on who follows you, you have a social responsibility to act properly in that ecosystem. Because if you do spam people, if you do say things that are inappropriate, people will unfollow you. No one is obligated to follow anybody. No one's obligated to be your friend on Facebook. No one's obligated to be your follower on Twitter. And people who abuse these ecosystems are going to go away. So unlike spam email, which someone could hide in some pirate ship off the coast and send spam, you can't really do that in social networks. And so For brands, I think the biggest takeaway for 2009 is going to be the fact that people are humans, and that there's a life behind the name. And if you want to connect more with your customers, be a person, share vulnerability, connect at a level that only humans connect at, not brands connect at. And I think that when more and more companies realize we're really going back to an age of time where people actually knew their customers, where people actually understood the traits they had. If you're going to a butcher, they understood the kind of meat you liked. If you're going to a restaurant, they understand the type of vegetables you liked made a certain way. We're actually going back in time rather than forward in time. And there's a personalization here that actually can be very real. And I think the people who are ultimately going to be successful in these social networks are going to be the brands that let themselves be humans and let them have personality traits that others can connect with at a level which you just can't connect with traditional advertising. And I think there's a lot of learning that still has to happen because so many people are now coming to the game saying, oh, we got to do this, got to do that. No. Right. And so it's interesting. So I'm sitting on the sidelines just listening, watching, and feeling. And I like to think that over time we get to be more connected. I think fundamentally we can have less wars and better lives for everybody the more we can have widespread communication. And the more we can connect, the better the chance we have we can do something good from it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time. Where can people find you online? And
online, they can find me. I'm Jeff. On Facebook, it's Jeff Kenny Pulver. My blog is jeffpulver.com. I'm on Twitter, and I'm just an email away, no matter where it may be. No matter where you may be.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Thank you.